you doing once again? Well, every now and then you just have a day that starts out kind of weird. And today was that day. I woke up about 5:10 and then I laid there, tried to go back to sleep. It wasn't doing any good. So I just decided, well, time to get up. And so, I wandered around the house and I walked in the bathroom and turned on the water in the sink. And there's no water pressure. It's just dribbling out of there. Well, right off the bat, you grumble. And anyway, it turned out, so I'm thinking, okay, this ain't good. About a year ago, I had 14, 15 months ago, I woke up one morning and found a well coming up out of my front yard. and the water's pouring out of there. I had a line break. Of course, that was my responsibility on my side of the meter, unfortunately. And so the first part I'm thinking, oh, shoot, maybe I got it again. But then I remembered just about as soon as I thought that, I remembered that, now wait a minute, that I had water last year even with that leak. And so, well, I knew it snowed last night, but it hadn't been cold enough to freeze pipes. We've had a lot colder weekends than that. And so I pulled on my boots and I go down, well, first I go outside and I let the chickens out of the pen, and then I'm looking around the yard and over at what was my office at one point, and I try the water on over there and to see if it still works. It doesn't. It works about like this. So that pretty well told me it wasn't maybe something, but I went downstairs too. I went and checked everything. I figured I might have water running out down in my basement. I didn't. And so anyway, I got on the internet and found out that the local water department had a line break. And I must have been on that same header, so it was taking away all my pressure. So anyway, that got settled about it. But I knew I had a meeting this morning, a Zoom call. It's kind of a long story how that all came about. It all kind of started at the West Virginia Writers Conference last year in Ripley, West Virginia, when I made a bid on a Zoom call with Craig Johnson. And the president of West Virginia Writers was on there this morning with us, and my good friend Keith Jones from South Carolina, might be North Carolina. It's one of them Carolinas, and he was down there. He was on this as well. So I thought I'd share a little bit of that with you. Craig Johnson was gracious enough to allow me to just record a portion of it. Of course, you won't see me in it. You'll see the screen a little bit, but I thought I'd share a little bit of that with you and let you see it, and maybe you'll enjoy it.
I'm trying to think. Like, I think we only got like about maybe 10 more minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, but
Well, I didn't want to share the whole thing anyway, but
yeah. Well, you just can't ask me anything about my personal life. That's the only thing.
Okay. Okay.
Actually, she's still upstairs in bed. Actually, so.
Well, I saw your cat a couple times already.
Yeah. They're the rodent patrol. They're wandering in and out. So.
It was a struggle to write in first person.
It really wasn't. It really wasn't. For me, it came kind of naturally. Walt Longmire were to come in and sit down beside you and say, let me tell you about what happened to me last week. Like, from that point in time, I don't want the reader to even remember that they're reading a book. I want them to fall headlong, into that world and just be a part of it, like that, to be, to a great extent. And, I don't know. I think there's an energy, that goes along with first person writing. It's also beneficiary like that to the ability to one of the dirty little secrets like it about writing mystery novels, of course, is that you have to play fair. You're going to have to give out the same information that the protagonist is getting. And so it's easier to do that in first person because they're getting the same information the protagonist is getting at the same time that they're getting it. And so you're playing fair with the mechanics, of doing, a fair, mystery, because you always have to give the reader the opportunity to be able to solve the mystery at the same time, as the protagonist. And then I don't know. I've heard different stories. I was in actually on the Tucson Book Festival, which is coming up here again here in a couple of weeks, and it's a marvelous, marvelous book festival. And I was on a panel where they were discussing, the intricacies of writing, and somehow on one end of the panel, they started bad mouthing first person and talking about how it was not a very professional way to tell a story. It's kind of amateurish and all of this. And I'm sitting there, on the other end of that table with one book, and it's written in first person. And I'm like, okay, so how am I going to defend this? And the great thing is I had Richard Russo sitting beside me, the absolutely magnificent novelist Richard Russo, like that, and Nobody's Fool, like at Empire Falls, like at all these magnificent books, and he's sitting beside me, and we had gotten to know each other a little bit, and they got to him and the question about first person, and all he did was look back down the table, and look out at the audience and go, "Call me Ishmael." It was like the biggest, literary body slam I had ever witnessed in my entire life. I just sat there and they got to me and I was like, I have nothing to add. I'm good.
That's pretty good. Keith, did you have anything else?
Yeah, you were talking about strong characters and all. When you decided a character, what ways, because you want to make them unique and larger than life and somewhat superhuman, but at the same time, you need to make them relatable so that your reader feels like, this could be me, this could be my adventure. How do you do that? Is there any techniques, devices, or formulas you use to?
Well, you've kind of described him pretty well right there in that one statement, to be honest. One thing I do think you hit on a key element there, is that, you want the character to be able to do the things that you want them to be able to do. And I knew with Walt, I was going to do some really terrible things to him right there in that first book. I had the outline all set up. My gosh, and I thought, okay, if he's going to be able to do the things that I'm going to do to him, he's going to have to be pretty durable. And I thought, if I make him about 6'5", and about 250 some pounds, he's a Marine investigator in Vietnam. He was an offensive lineman for USC, won a Rose Bowl. He's going to be pretty physically capable. He may be a little older, but he's pretty physically capable. And then I gave him a couple of other secret weapons. He's very smart. He's very, very smart, very clever, and he reads everything, and he remembers it all, and that makes him somewhat formidable too. The other thing I gave him was a sense of humor. That was kind of a key element for me. I have a hard time, staying serious in my books. For every serious piece of dialogue I come up with like 3 smart ass remarks, which makes Vic Moretti, a real go-to kind of character. Her and Henry both that kind of respond to Walt with a lot of that humor. But I think humor is a key element, because anybody that's ever done those type of jobs knows that, whether it's high stress, whether you're, working in a chemical factory, whether you're, working in the medical industry like that, whether you're teaching, whatever it is, if you have one of those high energy, kind of high pressure jobs, you better have a sense of humor or you're not going to, make it through the end of the day. And so I gave Walt all of those things to work with like that. And then, I thought, okay, well, I've got this, really great guy, like that. He's incredibly powerful. Like that. He's strong. Like got a sense of humor. Like that. He's got this mind, but boy, and then as a writer, I thought to myself, how do I cripple him? What do I do to, take a chunk out of him? And I thought, take the most important thing in his life away. His wife, that was his life partner, the person that he was attached to, for the entirety of his life, and thought that they were going to spend, the entirety of their lives, and then she was gone, and it humbled him, it took him down a notch, and I think that really is essential in a character. I mean, the old proverb is that you like people for their virtues, but you love them for their faults. It's the things that are wrong with a character that really kind of draw you to them. And I think as long as you keep those kind of things, in mind when you're, putting those composites together to build that character that you need to tell the story that you want to tell, then, you're in pretty good shape.
That's pretty good. What does a typical February workday kind of look like for you? Because I know it's colder than heck here in Montana.
Well, I've got with the
or Wyoming. I mean,
for farmers and ranchers, is the animals won't wait. That's got to come first. So I don't know. First thing in the morning, I've got wood burning stoves, pretty much all over the house, and we've got regular heat, and everything. But I really like wood burning stoves and fireplaces. I like the smell, I like the sound, and so I'll haul the wood in at first thing in the morning, get the coffee all up and going. I've got about 30 turkeys that live out here on my ranch road, that roost up, in the trees, and then come down every morning. And I have to laugh like that because I was reading I think it was a copy of Wyoming Wildlife magazine, and they were talking about the elusive Wyoming wild turkey. And as I was sitting here reading it one morning, I looked out, and there were 4 of them on the porch railing, looking in the window at me, going, "Hey, we're gonna get breakfast this morning or what? What's going on here?" And so I go out and I'll run the corn down the road for them, go dump out some hay, for the horses, get them all squared away in the barn, and fill the troughs, and then come back up. By that time, usually Judy's out of bed, and she'll throw something together for us for breakfast, and we'll sit and talk for a while and everything, and then I head upstairs into the loft. I go up into the loft and sit down and write. And the advice I always give workshops at young writers is that if you hit a rough spot, go back and look at what you wrote yesterday. I can guarantee you it's not perfect. Go back, fix that, and that'll kind of get you motivated and moving along into that next chapter, or that next scene in the book. I'll work up through till about lunchtime. Come down, have lunch with Judy. A lot of times I'll either read her what I've written or have her come up and have her read it. She's my number one reader, and she's got an incredible educational and newspaper background. Her parents were the editors of the Hartford Courant in Hartford, Connecticut, and so she's got quite an educational and editorial background certainly much better than mine. Her job most of the time is to remove commas, is what her job is. There's the standard comma, the Oxford comma, and then there's the Craig Johnson comma, which is just liberally sprinkled all through the manuscript, as more of an artistic premise, than anything else. And so her job is when she looks at somebody and says, "Do you know you have 5 commas in this one sentence? We're going to have to take some of these out, Craig, for God's sakes." But yeah, and then I'll work up through into the afternoon, and then in the afternoon, generally there's some kind of chores or something that I've got to get done here at the ranch. I just got a new compressor put in down at the shop, and so I got to go down, fine tune it, and run it for about 30 minutes to get the motor broke in and hook it all up. So that'll probably be the job for this afternoon. But it's kind of a great life, to be honest. I mean, I'm not the first one to discover. I think, whenever you talk about the founding fathers, they really kind of were onto something like that, because they had that physical life where they dealt with the things that they were doing, on a daily basis, but then they had the intellectual life of all of the writing that they were doing. Keeping in mind that not only did they have their writings, their professional writings, but also their letter writing. I mean, think about how many letters they had to write on a daily basis, and how many hours a day, you'd have to devote to something like that. It's really kind of amazing. But I think that's the balance, I think. I mean, if I just had to sit in a cubicle, and write, then I think I would probably get a little buggy like that, But then again, also, ask me when it's 43 degrees below zero and I'm out there breaking ice, in the horse troughs, trying to get it, warmed up enough so that it'll stay in a liquid form, or, when it's 102, in August, and I'm out there, throwing bales like that. Your mind starts to wander at that point in time. Wonder what the heck else it is you could be out there doing other than this, But I think it's kind of nice to have that kind of physical and intellectual balance. I think it's a nice life, I got to admit.
Yeah, I grew up on a farm, and I mean, my son and I still dabble in it, and still got some livestock and things, and and that's a good life. It's a good life for a kid to grow up in.
Oh yeah.
I think learning to take care of animals teaches you humanity maybe a little bit.
Absolutely. No, and the first thing I do is go down and discuss with the horses, what it is I'm going to be riding that day, and they listen very intently. Because I haven't fed them yet, like that. But then they're really great partners because they don't offer any advice at all.
Yeah.
They don't tell me what they think I should write, like that. So. Well, gentlemen, I think we're about rounded out here.
Yeah.
And I have to go feed some horses, as a matter of fact.
Hey, I can't thank you enough for coming on here this time with us. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely my pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure. Like that, it was a joy. Like that, and it was kind of interesting too. Like that, because having an editor and another author to discuss all these things with, it's kind of a high context kind of discussion.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more enjoyable. I don't get the chance to do that kind of a talk, and so thank you again for having the opportunity.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I'll see you guys later. See you on the trail.
Okay. I hope you enjoyed this chance of getting to hear a little bit of that broadcast that we had this morning, a Zoom call with Craig Johnson. He was gracious enough to allow me to record just a little portion of that and put it on this video and share it with you. So that was awful considerate of him. Craig Johnson's a busy man, and he got a lot of demand on his time, so I was kind of thankful for the chance to get to be on there. And it was an interesting conversation. Anybody would have been fascinated by it, and along with it, we had my friend Keith Jones on there, who's a writer, publisher, and editor, and along with a whole bunch of letters behind his name that I don't have, and so the guy's darn smart, and I was happy to share that with him and have him on there with me. So had a good time. Hope you enjoyed getting to see this. I hope if you've enjoyed this video, you'll hit like and subscribe, and maybe you'll see more of this, and I'll show you more things. I've got some things coming up real soon that I want to talk to you about and share with you. Some events that I'm really looking forward to, and I'll try to show you more of those so you'll get an idea what we're doing. So if you've seen anything here that you really enjoyed, I hope you'll hit like and subscribe and come back the next time. Bye now.